The voice of sharing, Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and good morning. You're with Gowri today, and you're listening to DurianASEAN.com, the voice of discovery and sharing. And today is a Monday morning. It's 8 o'clock right now, and I'm here on our ASEAN Daily segment to bring you more news from Southeast Asia, from the Asia Pacific, as well as some important local headlines to share with all of you guys. So let's get started with our first news for today, which is about the Kelantan's having a special sitting on Hudud now in March. And as we all know, Kelantan is in the talks of going through with the implementation of the penal code, which is the Hudud law. And according to them, this will be implemented as commanded by God, and they of the opinion that this law will actually be more helpful and more effective in solving crimes, petty crimes, major crimes in the state itself. But they will be convening a special sitting in March to actually amend the Sharia criminal code. And the Menteri Besar Dato' Ahmad Yaakob said the special sitting of the State Assembly for 29 December last year was postponed due to the massive floods. So now they are on to discussing this again. And if you look at this region itself, we already have Brunei that has already implemented the Hudud law. And of course, people there, as much as they want to protest or that they are dissatisfied with this implementation, there isn't much that they can actually do or say. And this goes back to the whole idea of freedom of expression in the country. But they are gonna have to live with it because Brunei. The government of Brunei is pretty adamant about the law. It was very controversial when they first approved it, especially from the Western countries. It received a huge outcry, especially in the US, because of the close relationship between the two parties. And a lot of hotels owned by the Brunei Sultan has actually even came up to say that they will boycott the hotel itself and a few other of his properties in the United States, saying that implementing this law goes against every human rights, and it's very inhumane to chop off people's hand over crimes. And this is more of a preventive measure, and what we really want is a measure that goes down to the education level, to the grassroots level, to really educate people on what is right, what is wrong, and also to address the economic problems that are contributing to all these crimes in the first place. And apart from that, we also have a little technical error faced by AirAsia X that was on the way to Jeddah yesterday. It had to turn back a few hours later, apparently after some problems that was encountered. But the good news is that everybody is safe. It's just that the pilot had to fly for a few hours in order to burn off some fuel. And as a safety precaution and in full compliance with all international security and safety standards, the plane landed back in KLIA2 at about 5:40 p.m. And all the passengers were transferred to a different aircraft, and the flight is scheduled for about 7 p.m. Yesterday. So everyone on board is safe. This news is another news that made a lot of international headlines, especially with all the recent tragedies that we faced with the MH370, MH17, and also with the recent AirAsia QZ8501. But it was not quite a tragedy this time. to let everyone know everybody on board is safe, and the plane is on its way to Jeddah. And also, Tony Fernandez said that this is a minor technical error, but of course they are investigating the incident to make sure that nothing like this will happen again. And let's move on to India, a bit out of ASEAN, but still within the Asia Pacific region. And it seems that they had an election to sort of prove the popularity of Mr. Modi's party, and sort of like a popularity test for the Prime Minister. And he has picked out a former policewoman who is Miss Kiran Bedi as his pick for chief minister from his party, the BJP, which is the Bharatiya Janata Party. And we had almost 60% of a turnout, and the official results are due tomorrow, which we will of course update you on. And it seems that both Mr. Kejriwal, Delhi has actually been without a government since Mr. Kejriwal, who is the former chief minister, who resigned last February, and that angered his anti-corruption bill. He was angered, that his anti-corruption bill was blocked, and since then the state has been directly governed by the federal authorities, but they are trying to have elections now to have a proper chief minister in the country. And the rivalry now is between Mr. Kejriwal and Mr. Bedi, who are both former civil servants and worked in the revenue department. While Miss Bedi was, of course, India's first women police officer. And these two are going up against one another for the elections. And they've both also worked together during some anti-corruption campaigns, and they have developed sort of an intense rivalry right there. And during the weeks of very hectic campaigning that they had in Delhi, both candidates, of course, promised the people to bring in good governance, to end corruption, and to also make Delhi a safe place for women. And that, just going back to that statement alone, we know we have read about a ton of rape cases that happened in India, especially after the most controversial one that shook the whole world. We think that the government would, of course, do something about it. But if you read the papers, you still come across news about women getting raped, not only in Delhi, but in other parts of India as well. And this seems to be one of the grave problems that they are facing in the country when, in terms of safety for women. And it's good that the candidates actually highlighted that part and promised to do something about it. And in the previous elections, Delhi elections in 2013, Mr. Modi's BJP party actually won most of the seats, but still fell short of a majority, leaving the opposing party to form a coalition with the Congress party. So it seems that Mr. Kejriwal has resigned on February 14 after 49 days in the office, and that of course happened after the opposition politicians blocked a bill that would have created an independent body with the power to investigate politicians and civil servants suspected of corruption, which is another major issue, not only in India, in our country as well, in a lot of countries in this region, but it's much more of a severe problem in India itself. So we will update you as soon as we find out who won the elections, which will be out tomorrow. So we'll take a short break, and when we come back, I'll bring you more news from ASEAN.
The voice of sharing. Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and welcome back to ASEAN.com, the voice of discovery and sharing. This is Gowri.
Good morning, this is Grace.
And we are going to present to you more news from Southeast Asia on our daily ASEAN Daily, where we bring you all the news and also discuss about some of the important issues that's going on in Southeast Asia, also all over the Asia Pacific region, as well as some important local headlines. And for now, we are going to be discussing a little bit about Thailand. It seems that in a recent survey that was conducted, most Thais appear to believe that the country's situation right now, martial law actually needs to be continued, which is pretty shocking, opposing to what we have read all this while, saying that the citizens have actually been quite unhappy and dissatisfied about the Thai junta taking over the government.
And that doesn't mean that the government has successfully sort of implemented the system to people's mind and to the public in general.
It seems they have been pretty successful, if I may use the term brainwashing the local people, because there was a lot of outcry when the junta took over. There were a lot of news about Thais wanting their democracy back. They want their elections, and they were not happy about having a military government. But it could also be maybe because they are getting comfortable with the state of Thailand right now, so they feel like, hey, things are not so bad, so why don't we just carry on with this?
Well, it could also be because people expected the worst, perhaps after the change of the government system, but after some time, perhaps it wasn't that bad as they thought. So they are pretty much okay in the status that they can just go with the flow with the changing in the government system.
And in fact, as many as 71% of the respondents said that under the leadership of Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha, Thailand's situation has actually improved. And only 19.6% said that the situation is the same, and only 7% of the entire Thai population said that the situation has gotten worse.
So actually, it's just off air, Gowri, you mentioned before that when we visited Manila and then we met the few delegates from Thailand, and they said they were pretty okay with the government and the country itself. It was actually the media and the news that we have read about the Thailand situation that it actually sounded worse than we thought.
That's a very good point, because different media, of course, reports the news differently, and sometimes the message we get is the picture that they are trying to paint, and not necessarily what's really going on in the country itself. And yeah, it seemed like the people there are quite happy with how things are going, and it's not exactly all people protesting and demonstrating every day like what we expected, or the kind of picture that we got from all the news and all the articles that we have read. So it seems, but then again, if you were to look at it, of course they want to go for a democracy. But if the people themselves actually feel like things are looking up, then maybe General Prayut Chan-o-cha can actually go ahead and remain as the Prime Minister of the country. But then again, we don't know how true this survey is and how wide of a population did they actually reach out to.
Perhaps Durian needs to visit Thailand and see,
see for ourselves.
Ourselves and see the right situation there. But then this is we can say it's a contradicting news compared to other news that we have reported before. However, just based on our just experience and then the hearing from the other delegates from the Thailand itself, it's a sort of different opinions from people to people and the community itself. And people probably are seeing the few changes for the better and improvements in the certain areas the government has implemented. So people maybe be pleased with the changes that I've seen so far.
And so all the best to Thailand and General Prayut Chan-o-cha as well. And hopefully, if he's doing a good job with the country, he keeps doing it, but of course without oppressing the people, without suppressing the freedom of expression in the country itself, because that is one of the most important things in this region, or in any country in the world, where no matter how perfect the government is, you still want people to voice out their opinions or whenever they are dissatisfied about
For
a
sure.
certain issue.
And also, when it comes to the controlling the one nation, it goes with the human rights. And ASEAN already has a lot of human rights issue, so no more violence, and just go for the right, give the rights to people.
And another issue that we are looking at is in Cambodia, where because it's also really close to China, and China has this appetite for luxury rosewood fields, and this is causing a lot of illegal timber trade in Cambodia itself, because as much as China is craving for all these luxury woods, they are not willing to pay that much of a price, and because of that, people in Cambodia have resorted to actually do a lot of illegal logging, controlled usually by a tycoon, and export this timber to China, according to a report by an environmental advocacy group.
And then China has a lot of rich people there. And then one thing for sure is there are lots of ways that they actually did look for to find the easiest way to transport the product from one country to other. And then this is just one of examples that how China's China's appetite for this luxury wood type to trade in Cambodia.
And it's interesting to see China itself in this region. Of course, it's big, it's powerful, and when China itself has certain demands, it can actually sort of change the entire economic direction of a country itself, because that's how much of a consumer power that they have in the country. Like you mentioned, there are a lot of rich people, and they are actually willing to pay for this luxury wood, although not that much, but they are actually causing a rise in this illegal timber trade that's happening in Cambodia right now. And it seems that these rosewood logs, which they are called, actually used to make a pricey reproduction of Qing and Ming dynasty furnitures in China, and it's been rising a lot in the last couple of years, the demand for these antique furnitures.
And also, when it comes to transporting all those products, documentation is also very important. And then there are some says that it obtained the copies of shipping documents for timber valued at around $5.6 million US for 2 lots of wood exported by this particular group in Hong Kong. And then also the non-governmental organization said the transportation firm has a capital shareholding of only around $0.25 US and no public presence as a timber trading company.
And another interesting fact about this rosewood, it's actually, believe it or not, is one of the threatened species in Cambodia itself. So harvesting or exporting this rosewood, it's also known as hongmu, is actually banned by the Cambodian government since 2013.
So this is a really illegal act.
A very, very, very illegal act indeed. And the wood is also actually protected under the Convention on International Trade and Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora since March 2013. But according to a May 2014 article in an environmental affairs magazine, it seems that the Chinese government is actually supporting the industry by even investing in hongmu, and this has outstripped the domestic supply of rosewood and made the country heavily dependent on imports. So it is actually available. They can get access to it in China itself, but because of the price difference, like we mentioned earlier, they are actually willing to invest and get it from Cambodia. and also in that way changing the whole landscape of Cambodia while they do
I'm
it.
not trying to be sarcastic here, but then once the rosewood runs out of, in Cambodia and also China itself, you never know how these Chinese people can actually replicate the rosewood itself within their country. They can actually manufacture, sort of fake rosewood material.
That's true. It's already about to get extinct. I think it wouldn't take that long before they actually run out of these rosewoods, and we
Yep.
will see what will the Chinese resort to after that. And moving on to Indonesia and Philippines at the same time, back to the whole death row with Jokowi, and he is, of course, has not been in good light as well. When he first came up, he was like kind of like the light of hope, the light, the beacon of change for Indonesians, and also a lot of countries. He developed the good relationship with countries in the region itself. But ever since he came up with this whole executing people with drug offenses thing, he has of course upset a lot of human rights people and a lot of country leaders as well. And in this case, we're talking about Philippines because he is about to execute a Filipina woman facing execution for drug smuggling, and they are trying very hard to talk to Joko Widodo about this to change his mind.
Well, like you said, Gowri, Joko Widodo has been pretty much strict and firm on this drug dealing and also security forces, and how he just firmly can announce to the public that regarding the execution of one person or a few more. And of course, a lot of community and also leaders of certain countries have voiced out regarding this issue, but it looks like he won't be listening to all these voices from people, and this is directly leads to the human rights. And instead of just executing them, there are a lot of alternative ways that we can look into to punish them and also make them realize that what they've done is actually wrong to the nation.
So, just a little fact, the Philippines actually does not have a death penalty, and the fate of Filipinos abroad is usually a very hot political topic in countries where 10% of their population actually seek to work overseas, and usually outside the region, usually within the region itself. And like we said earlier, Joko Widodo has of course upset a lot of people, a lot of human rights activists, because of the execution of 6 offenders, including 5 foreigners. And the reason one is, of course, this Filipina woman, which has also prompted his visit. Apparently, he is in Manila right now to discuss with President Aquino. But even then, it doesn't seem like he's going to change his mind about it. He's still pretty adamant about being strict when it comes to drug-related offenses. And this could eventually interrupt or affect the relationship
Between
with
other
other country leaders.
For sure, it's already affected the relationship between Indonesia and Australia. And if this continues, the relationship between Philippines and Indonesia may affect. And also, both Philippines and Indonesia are one of ASEAN region country, and we are looking at further, improvement and the relationship. And this just comes. This just happens, then of course it will affect the peace between these two countries.
So they are still in discussions to work things out, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. And of course, then we'll update our listeners about it. But for now, let's go over to Myanmar for a bit, where the students are rallying a lot, and this is worrying the government in the country.
In Myanmar.
In Myanmar.
And the Myanmar government is growing increasingly uneasy about the nationwide students' rallies against this new education law that protesters says limits university autonomy.
And it seems hundreds of students had this peaceful march on January 20th. But the problem with this is that they feel like when most students actually come forward and voice their dissatisfaction, voice their opinions, this it starts scaring the government, because as the ruling party or the ruling government of a country, of course you want to have total power, total control over every aspect of the country. And then you have this strong young student groups coming up and protesting, and this will scare any government at all, not only in Myanmar, even in Malaysia. We kind of had the similar issue a few months back. But when it comes to students in a country, there's another issue to look at. Should students just focus on their studies, or should they actually be given the power to participate in political activities, or to organize rallies and marches to voice their opinion?
They have the right to do whatever they want when it comes to education, because after all, there will be the new generation to the nation to lead the country itself, and then they have the right to know what's going on inside and out, not only the politically but all sorts of areas. So when it comes to student rights and education rights, and also freedom of speech and regarding certain issues, they have their own right to go out and voice out their opinions. However, it also matters how extreme can that be, and also how the fine line between the government and the public, the communication.
And the line of moderation as well, because as students, of course, their priority is their studies, and you don't want them to get way too distracted. Of course, they have every right to participate in rallies or in peaceful marches, as long as they don't neglect the important part, that is their education. And it seems that the government is also trying to strike an agreement between the students who are protesting, and also with the political authorities. And the parliament actually passed a bill with the support from a majority of ruling party lawmakers, and President Thein Sein actually signed into the law September last year. But as of now, the students are still continuing with their march, and at a pace that is likely to even enter into Yangon later this month, where they want to intensify their campaigns.
And also at the same time, they are expecting the president office minister to organize a few more talks between the students and the government itself, so then the communication, there will be no block in the communication, and they will be able to send out their messages.
So we are going to take another short break. When we come back, a few more news from ASEAN on our ASEAN Daily for this Monday morning.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and welcome back to DuranASEAN.com, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Gowri.
And this is Grace.
And we are back on our ASEAN Daily segment to bring you more news from Southeast Asia. And starting out now, we have a news about ASEAN, but mostly from the perspective of this Cambodia expert, where he says that the youth need more skills in order to compete in an integrated ASEAN.
For sure, youth are very important when it comes to economic growth, and also not only economic-wise, but then generally in every areas to be able to make it the developed nation. And one thing for sure, one of the examples is Cambodia's younger population lacked the skills and knowledge to compete in the integrated ASEAN. That's just one example from one country from ASEAN, and we do have other developing countries, and also pretty much lower income countries such as Myanmar, Cambodia, and we also have Laos. And all those skills need to be improved to be able to compete, not only to make integrated ASEAN, but to be able to compete with other countries.
And ASEAN, as we all know, is of course working towards an economic integration where we are looking at free flow of goods, services, labor across the region by end of this year. And according to Mr. Pen Somoni, who is the Cambodian Volunteers for Society, he's a director, and he said that if Cambodia has weaker abilities, we will lose out. And of course, this does not only apply to Cambodia; it applies to all the countries in this region, and we can't compete with the others. And it depends. When we talk about all the 10 countries, of course, we all have our own strength, our own weaknesses, and we all have our particular economic structure and framework, and we have to learn how to use that to our advantage. And he says, like, for example, Cambodia has rice, for example, but it cannot compete with Thailand in terms of rice production, so they have to look at other ways on how they can compete on a regional level, and other similar competitions from other countries will also emerge. And we probably think that we have a certain strength in this particular sector or industry, but another country can come up and overtake us in that area if we don't have enough skilled labor that can really work towards making it happen.
And also at the same time, ASEAN has a population of around 600 million, and then around 60% are youth, and that definitely creates the competitive challenge. And with just in the neighboring countries around the ASEAN region, such as Korea and Japan, the education system and the youth skills are much higher than the other regions surrounding them. So definitely it's something that ASEAN needs to look at to be able to make the youth stronger in terms of education and also in terms of their skills, because that will definitely create more job opportunity and also to understand what's going on around them. But nowadays the problem that youth has is they rely on too much on the let's say, for one of the example will be all those internet, that they are so sucked into the internet, a lot of advantages, so they don't really look or be curious about what's happening. And this is just a small area that it can be an issue when it comes to developing the skills.
And apart from internet, another thing is people, I would say the kids these days are very obsessed with getting a college degree, and it's not always about the paper qualification, and that is something that probably half the population fail to realize, that having a paper qualification doesn't necessarily guarantee you a bright future. And in this case, this director also brought up a very important point where he says, if you have low skills, you get low salaries, and people can easily come in and replace you. You can have like a perfect CGPA or like pass all your exams with flying colors, but can you actually apply those skills outside in the real world, in the industry itself, be a very skilled worker and get a high salary? Or otherwise you will just end up becoming just another worker where your supervisor will be from another country, for example, because they train their youth to be more skilled instead of putting more weight on paper qualifications.
And also, that's actually a very good point. And at the same time, ASEAN as a whole, they need to look into how to develop and to be able to train all those youth and also skills to become a good entrepreneurs in ASEAN region, because with the AEC coming on, and there are a lot of startups booming up in this throughout this Southeast Asia regions, and it's important to notice all this booming of startups, and that will definitely there has created a lot of job opportunities already to youth, and the youth they can't just be sit down and then just watch what's happening. They need to be participated and involved in those areas.
So if they don't start speeding up, they will lose out and not be able to compete with all the other countries, especially with the AEC now. Every country has started competing with one another in every industry. So not just Cambodia, all the other countries in the region, including Malaysia as the chairman, we have to start focusing on more skilled labor. That's the only way to drive the whole industry forward with your skilled workers. So that's all the time that we have for this morning. Thank you so much for listening to our ASEAN Daily. We will be back tomorrow as well at 8 o'clock in the morning for more news from Southeast Asia. But for now, we are going to take a short break and we'll be back at 9 o'clock for our next program this morning.
But don't forget about our website and our social media channels as well. Visit us at durianasean.com, and we have a social media channel: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. So
And
we'll
we
be back.
also have a YouTube channel. Subscribe to that as well for daily podcast. And so we'll see you later.